This is a learning nugget for the Atlas Business Language English for Real Estate course. Just to give a sample of some of the course topics that we have in this course so you can get an idea of what you might get. What I'd like to talk about today is formal and informal English. Specifically, the way that we use it in English to show respect for our clients, to make our clients feel at home, and also to make sure that we're keeping a certain amount of distance with our clients as well. In German you have sie and you have du, and it's very clear what your relationship is with your client. Not so clear in English. In most English speakers, we want to get onto a first name basis. There's a reason for that. Once we're on a first name basis, it's much easier for us to ask you for things, to ask you for favors. One way to do this when we're writing, if we want to make sure that we stay in a formal relationship with our customer, it starts with our emails. Very often I hear from clients tell me, well, suddenly this client started calling me by my first name. He just started being very informal, and I don't know why. Very often it happens with the email, and part of it happens at the end of the email. So we have two formal salutations in an email. Dear Mr. Miller, dear Sir, Madam. Both of these should have a close in the email that is very formal. For example, you might say, yours sincerely, and for dear Sir, Madam, faithfully yours. Those are very formal closes. You have a formal opening and a formal close. The close is the last thing that the reader sees. It's often the impression that the reader has when he or she starts to write you back. If you started your email informally, if you said, Dear Robert, then the close might be best regards. You might also say kind regards or other things, depending on how informal your relationship is. But notice the difference here. If the last thing I see is best regards, then I know that I'm going to write back and say, Dear Douglas. What I see as a mistake very often in my students' writing is they'll start formally, but then they end informally. Now, there's a misconception that this is a formal ending because you've seen it a lot of times. It is true that sometimes we will say best regards, even though we started with Dear Mr. Miller. In a business situation, we might end with best regards. But that's only because we've done a lot of business with Mr. Miller. We're still very formal with him. But this is not really correct, and it's not a good idea for you to manage the relationship you have with the client. Number one is you always want to show the most respect you can to your client, to stay on a good level with him. Number two, if you wrote Dear Mr. Miller and then best regards, Mr. Miller's going to write you back, possibly, thinking that he can now write to you in an informal way. He's going to say, Dear Douglas. And it might surprise you. You suddenly don't know why you had this informal letter from your client when you were formal before. So one of the things that's important and that we do cover in the course, we also give reference sheets for this on how to start a letter, how to end it properly, and how to manage that so that you keep the formal relationship that you want to have with your client, or if it becomes an informal relationship, how to manage that as well.